At a certain point, someone looked up and saw it. It's hard to understand. I mean, there'd be more than 1,000 of us on that ship, between rich people and immigrants and odd types and ourselves. And yet, there was always one, just one who saw it first. Maybe it'd be while he was eating, or simply walking on the deck. Maybe he'd be hitching up his pants. He'd raise his head a moment, stare at the sea, and see it. Then he'd freeze right where he was. His heart split into 1,000 pieces, and always, every damn time, I swear, always, he'd turn to us, to the ship, to everyone, and cry out, America. Then he'd stand there motionless as if he'd just stepped into a photo, looking like he made it himself. America. The guy who sees America first. There's one on every ship. And don't imagine it's the sort of thing that happens by chance, no. It's not a matter of eyesight. It's fate. It's someone who'd always had that instant stamped on his life. When he was a child, you could look into his eyes, and if you looked hard enough, you could see it. Right there. America. Ready to spring. To slide along through nerves and blood and, I don't know, up to the brain. And from there to the tongue. And all the way into that cry. America! There, waiting. We played because the ocean is big and frightening. We played so that people wouldn't feel time passing and they'd forget where they were and who they were. We played to make them dance, because if you're dancing, you can't die and you feel like God. We played ragtime, because it's the music God dances to when no one's looking. Ladies and gentlemen, meine Damen und Herren, Signor et Signori, Mesdames and Messieurs, welcome to our ship. This floating city that resembles in every single way the Titanic. Calm down, stay seated. That fellow down there just crossed himself, I saw it clearly. Welcome to the ocean. Speaking of which, what are you doing here? Made a bet? Creditors at your heels? 30 years late for the gold rush? Took a tour of the ship and didn't know it left? Went out for a second to buy cigarettes, and this very moment your wife is at the police station saying he was a good man, 30 years married, never an argument? In other words, what the devil are you doing here? 300 miles from whatever goddamn world and 2 minutes from the next bout of retching? Pardon. Damn, I was joking. Believe me, you will not find another ship like this. Maybe, if you search for years, you may find, all on one ship, a claustrophobic captain, a blind helmsman, a stammering radio operator, and a doctor with an unpronounceable name. Maybe. But what will never happen again, and you can swear to it, is that you will be sitting here with your ass on 10 inches of chair, in 100 yards of water, in the middle of the ocean, and before your eyes, the miracle, and in your ears, the marvel, and in your feet, the rhythm, and in your heart, the sound of the unique, inimitable, infinite Atlantic Jazz Band. On clarinet, Sam Sleepy Washington. On banjo, Oscar De La Guerra. On trumpet, Tim Tooney. On trombone, Jim Gallup. On guitar, Samuel Hopkins. And finally, on piano, Danny Budman T.D. Lemon Novecento. The greatest. He really was the greatest. We played music. He was something different. He played. What he played didn't exist before he played it, okay? It wasn't anywhere. And when he got up from the piano, it wasn't there anymore. And it wasn't there ever again. Danny Budman T.D. Lemon Novecento. The last time I saw him, he was sitting on a bomb. Seriously, he was sitting on a charge of dynamite this big. It's a long story. He used to say, you're never really screwed if you have a good story and someone to tell it to. He had a good story. He was his good story. Crazy, if you think about it, but beautiful. And that night, sitting on all that dynamite, he gave it to me. Because I was his best friend, me. Well, since then, I've done a lot of stupid things. And if you turn me upside down right now, nothing would fall out of my pockets. I even sold my trumpet, everything. But that story? No. I haven't lost that story. It's still here, clear and inexplicable. Just like the music when in the middle of the ocean, the magic piano of Danny Buderman T.D. Lemon Novecento played. He was found by a sailor named Danny Buderman. He found him one morning in Boston after everyone had disembarked in a cardboard box. He must have been 10 days old, no more. He wasn't even crying. He was just lying there quietly with his eyes open in that big box. He'd been left in the ballroom, in first class, on the piano. But he didn't look like a newborn from first class. It was usually the immigrants who did a thing like that, gave birth in secret, somewhere over the bridge and left the child there. It wasn't spite. It was poverty, black poverty. Anyhow, every so often a child slipped out, which for an immigrant meant another mouth to feed and a whole heap of trouble at the immigration office. So they left him on the ship. That's how it must have been with that child. They must have reasoned. If we leave him on the grand piano, in the ballroom in first class, maybe some money bags will take him, and he'll be happy his whole life. It was a good plan, and it half worked. He didn't get rich, but he did become a pianist. The greatest, I swear, greatest. He started out by giving the infant his own name, Danny Buderman, the only vanity he ever allowed himself his whole life. Then he added T.D. Lemon, just like the stamp on the cardboard box, because he said it was the thing to do, to have letters in the middle of your name. All the lawyers have them, declared Bertie Bum, an engineer who ended up in jail thanks to a lawyer named John P.T.K. Wonder. And so emerged Danny Buderman T.D. Lemon. A fine name, said old Buderman, but something's missing. It doesn't have a grand finale. What about Tuesday? Said Sam Stahl, who was a waiter. You found him on Tuesday, call him Tuesday. Danny thought for a moment. Then he smiled. Good idea, Sam. I found him in the first year of this new goddamn century, right? I'll call him Novecento. Novecento? Yeah, 1900. But it's a number. It was a number. Now, it's a name. Danny Buderman T.D. Lemon Novecento. Perfect. Beautiful. A great name. Christ, really a great name. He'll go far with a name like that. It took him 3 days to die. He was broken inside and there was no way to put him back together. Novecento was just a child. He sat beside Danny's bed and didn't budge. He had a pile of old newspapers. After 3 days laboring mightily, he read all the race results he could find to old Danny, who was breathing his last. He put together the letters as Danny taught him, with his fingers pressing against the newspaper and his eyes glued. He read slowly, but he read. Old Danny died in the 6th race in Chicago, won by drinking water by 2 lengths over minestrone and 5 of the Blue Foundation. The fact is, he couldn't help laugh at those names, and he laughed so hard he burst inside. He wrapped him in a sail and lowered him into the ocean. On the sail in red paint, the captain wrote, "Thanks, Danny." So Novecento became an orphan for the 2nd time. He was 8 and had already gone back and forth between Europe and America 50 times. The ocean was his home. He never set foot on land. He'd seen it, of course, from the ports, but he never disembarked. The fact is that Danny was afraid the authorities would take him away with a lot of nonsense about documents and visas and stuff like that. So Novecento remained on board, always. And at a certain point, the ship set out again. On the second night out from harbor, when even the lights off the coast of Ireland could no longer be seen. First class ballroom, lights out. People in pajamas standing in the doorways. Passengers coming out of their cabins. And then sailors, 3 of them, up from the engine room, completely black. Also Truman, the radio operator, all silent, gazing. Novecento. He was sitting on a piano stool with his legs dangling. They didn't reach the floor. And God's honest truth, he was playing the piano. I don't know what the hell music he was playing, but it was simple and beautiful. There were no tricks. It was really him playing, his hands on those keys. Lord, the sea has awakened. The sea has gone wild. Water explodes against the sky, explodes, washes, pushes. Clouds and stars into the wind, lets loose, raging. The sea rocks you, raging. Fury all around, spraying, suffering. The sea has gone mad as far as you can see. All black and black walls and eddies, all mute, silent, waiting till it stops. Shipwreck. If you don't get on now, you never will. Said the lunatic, smiling. Okay, we'll let it all go to hell, okay? What have I got to lose? Onto your stupid stool. Here I am. Now what? Now, don't be afraid. And he began to play. You don't have to believe this. And to be honest, I wouldn't believe it if somebody told me. But the truth of the matter is that that piano began to slide over the parquet of the ballroom. And it took us with it, while Novecento played, never taking his eyes off those keys. He seemed to be somewhere else. The piano followed the waves back and forth and turned in a circle, headed straight toward the window, and when it got within a hair's breadth, stopped and slid gently back. The sea seemed to be rocking it and rocking us. And I couldn't understand the damn thing, and Novecento was still playing. He didn't stop for 1 second, and it was clear to me that he wasn't simply playing. He was steering the piano, you see? With the keys and with the notes, I don't know, it was absurd, but that's how it was. And I realized that at that moment what we were doing, what we were really doing, was dancing with the ocean. Us and him. Mad, perfect dancers, embracing in a slow waltz over the gilded parquet of the night. Oh, yes. Novecento said he still had to perfect that particular trick. I said that basically it was just a matter of adjusting the brakes. Someone, somewhere one day told him about Novecento. That someone must have said something like, he is the greatest pianist in the world. Curious stories circulated, some of them true, like the one about Senator Wilson who made the whole voyage in 3rd class, because it was there Novecento didn't play the normal notes. He played his own notes, which weren't normal. He had a piano there, upright, wooden, and he went there in the afternoon or late at night. First he listened. He wanted people to sing the songs they knew. And every so often someone brought out a guitar or harmonic or something and began to play music that no one knows where it came from. And Novecento listened. And then, lightly, he began to touch the keys. And he just touched the keys, and little by little it became real plain. Sound came out of the piano, and they were sounds of another world. As for Senator Wilson, they had to take him off the ship by force. Because if it was up to him, he would have stayed listening to Novecento play for the rest of his goddamn days. Anyway, someone went to Jelly Roll Morton and said, on that ship, there's a man who does what he wants with the piano. And when he feels like it, he plays jazz. And when he doesn't, he plays something that's like 10 jazzes put together. Jelly Roll Morton had a temper. Everyone knew this. He said, well, how can someone who doesn't have the balls to get off a ship be any good? It might have ended there. Except someone at that point said, go ahead and laugh. Because if that guy should decide to disembark, you'd go back to playing in the brothels. As God is my witness, in the brothels. Jelly Roll took a small pistol with the mother-of-pearl handle out of his pocket, pointed it to the head of the fellow who had spoken, and said, "Where is this prick of a shit?" What he had in mind was a duel. It was a fashion at the time. Musicians would challenge each other by trading bravura pieces, and in the end, someone won. I was so bewildered, I got one and gave it to him. I mean, Novecento didn't smoke. He took my cigarette, turned, and went to sit again at the piano. It took a while for the room to realize that he had sat down and that maybe he wanted to play. Novecento waited patiently until there was a sort of silence. Then he glanced at Jelly Roll Morton, who was standing at the bar drinking a glass of champagne, and said softly, "You asked for it, asshole." Then he placed my cigarette on the edge of the piano, unlit, and he began. Like that. Novecento stood, leaned forward slightly over the keyboard, and lowered the cigarette toward the piano strings. Faint sizzle. When he pulled it out, it was lit. I swear, lit and smoking. Novecento held it like a little candle. He didn't smoke it. He didn't even know how to hold it. He took a few steps and stood in front of Jelly Roll Morton. He offered him the cigarette. "You smoke. I'm no good." It was then that the people woke up from the spell. A cacophony of cries and applause and noise arose. Nothing like that had ever been seen. Everyone shouting. Everyone wanted to touch Novecento. A general confusion. You couldn't understand a thing anymore. And right in the middle, Jelly Roll Morton nervously smoking that cigarette, searching for the right expression and not finding it. And at a certain point, his butterfly hand began to tremble. It was really trembling, and I saw it. I'll never forget it. Trembling so hard that at a certain point, the cigarette ash broke off and fell. I've always been struck by this business of painting. They stay up for years. And then, though nothing happens, and I mean nothing, bang, they fall. They hang there, attached to the nail. No one does a thing to them. But at a certain point, bang, down they go, like a rock. It's one of those things it's best not to think about. Otherwise, you go mad. When a painting falls. When you wake up one morning and you don't love her anymore. When you open the newspaper and realize the war is broken out. When in the middle of the ocean, Novecento looked up from his dinner plate and said to me, "In 3 days, in New York, I'm getting off this shit." I was dumbfounded. Bang. You can't ask a painting a damn thing. For Novecento, I could. I left him alone for a while. And then I began to badger him. I wanted to know why. There had to be a reason. You don't just live on a ship for 32 years and suddenly get off, as if it's nothing, without even telling your best friend why. "There's a thing there I gotta see," he said. "What thing?" He didn't say. And you can understand why, because when he said it, what he said was, "The sea." The sea? Imagine. You could think of everything, but not that. It was the bullshit of the century. You've been looking at the sea for 32 years, Novecento. From here. I want to see it from there. It's not the same thing. It was at the third step that he stopped, suddenly. "What's the matter? Did you step on a turd?" said Neil O'Connor, an Irishman who didn't know his elbow from his ass, but you couldn't ruffle his good humor if you tried. "He must have forgotten something," I said. "What?" "How should I know? Maybe he forgot why he's getting off?" "Don't talk nonsense." Meanwhile, he was stock still. One foot on the second step and one on the third. He stayed like that for an eternity. He was looking straight ahead, It seemed he was looking for something. And then finally, he did a strange thing. He took off his hat, stretched out his hand behind the rail of the gangplank, and let it go. I watched him make a couple of turns in the air and fall into the sea. When I looked up, I saw Novecento in his camel hair coat, in my camel hair coat, going back up those 2 steps with his back against the world and a strange smile on his face. 2 steps, and he disappeared into the ship. I'd come on board 6 years earlier, but it seemed a lifetime had passed. I didn't leave for a day or a week. I left forever. I was done with the ocean. Sooner or later, you have to go home. Better sooner, I said to myself. Better sooner, I said to Novecento, and he understood. It was clear that he didn't want me to go down that gangplank forever, but he'd never tell me so. And it was better that way. That last night, we were playing for the usual imbeciles in first class. And when it was my solo, I started to play, and after a few notes, I heard the piano coming along with me. In a whisper, sweetly, but it was playing with me. We went on together, and I played my best. Lord, I was no Louis Armstrong, but I played well, with Novecento following me everywhere, as only he knew how. They let us go on for a long time, my trumpet and his piano, for the last time, saying to each other all the things you can never say in words. Around us, people went on dancing. They weren't aware of anything. They couldn't be. What did they know? They went on dancing as if it was nothing. Maybe one might have said to the other, "Look at that trumpet player. What a howl. He's drunk, or he's crazy. Look at that trumpet player. He's weeping while he plays. White shoes polished. He never got off. In that half-light, he seemed like a prince. He never got off. He'd be blown up with all the rest, in the middle of the ocean. Grand finale. Blazing fireworks, adieu. Danny, Poruban, T.D. Lemon. Novecento. On that ship swallowed up by darkness, the last memory of him is a voice. Really, just a voice. Slow, speaking. The whole city. Couldn't see the end of it. The end, please. Can I see where it ends? And the noise. On that goddamn gangplank, everything was very beautiful. And I was grand in my overcoat. I made my grand impression. And I had no doubts. With my brown hat. First step, second step, third step. First step, second step, third step. First step, second step. It's not what I saw that stopped me. It's what I didn't see. Can you understand that, brother? It's what I didn't see. I looked, but it wasn't there. In that whole vast city, there was everything except. There was everything. But there was no end. What I didn't see was where it all ended. The end of the world. Now think about it. A piano. The keys begin, the keys end. You know there are 88 keys. No one can cheat you. They're not infinite. You are infinite. And the music you make is infinite. They're 88. You are infinite. And one by one, I left them behind me. Geometry. A work of perfection. I bewitched all the women in the world by playing an entire night for one woman. One. Her skin transparent, her legs slender, no ring on her finger. She never smiled. Her gaze never faltered, ever. And when she rose, it wasn't her who left my life. It was all the women in the world. I bewitched the father I'll never be. When I watched the child die, sitting beside him for days, without missing anything of that tremendous sight. I wanted to be the last thing he saw in the world. And when he left, looking into my eyes, it wasn't him who left, but all the children I never had. I bewitched all the friends I wished for, playing for you and with you that night. In your face, in your eyes, I saw them, all of them, my dear friend. And when you left, they left with you. I said goodbye to all the wonders of the world when I saw the giant icebergs in the North Sea collapse, overcome by heat. I said goodbye to miracles when I saw men whom the war had shattered laughing. I said goodbye to anger when I saw this ship filled with dynamite. I said goodbye to music, my music, the day I played all of it in a single instantaneous note. And I said goodbye to happiness when I saw you walking here today. It's a work of chiseling. I disarmed unhappiness. I removed my life from desires. If you could retrace my path, you'd find me, bewitched, immobilized. Stopped forever to mark the path of this strange journey I never told anyone but you. I already see the scene up there. The guy who looked for my name on the list and doesn't find it. What did you say your name was? Novecento. Nosjinsky, Navalis, Navarro, Nosa. It's that I was born on a ship. Excuse me? It's that I was born on a ship and I also died on it. I don't know if that matters up here. Shipwreck? No. Blown up. Half a ton of dynamite. Ah. Everything all right now? Yes. Yes, fine. That is, it's just this business of the arm. I lost an arm, but they assured me, you're missing an arm? Yes, you see, in the explosion. There must be a couple over there. Which are you missing? The left. Oh dear. What? I'm afraid I've only got two rights. Two right arms? Yes, under the circumstances, would you be all right with what? I mean, could you take a right arm? A right arm instead of a left? Yes. Well, but on the whole, better a right than nothing. Bad luck. All eternity in paradise with two right hands. A hell in paradise. There's nothing funny about it. But of course, you know, music. Those hands too right. If only there is a piano. It's dynamite you've got under your ass, brother. Get off there and go. It's over. This time, it's really over.